Should you date in sobriety? Ultimately, as always, it's going to be your decision, but I'm going to give you one of my experiences and maybe you guys can learn something from it. As always, if you guys are loving the content, please like, please comment, please subscribe. Let's get into it. So now when I got released from jail back in 2014, as I've said in other videos, I had a lot of goals in mind. I had a lot of things that I wanted to catch up on my life. You know, one of those goals was I wanted to get in shape. But one of the bigger goals is that I wanted to become a family guy. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have kids. I felt like I was too late in my life, you know, and I was behind on everybody else and that I had to catch up. And I was really looking for a girlfriend, you know, like I really wanted to start a family. And at the time, you know, I didn't have a place to live. I didn't have a car. I didn't have any money. You know, I had nothing to give to anybody, you know, so looking back on it now, I feel like almost that I was a little selfish for trying to find a girlfriend that, you know, I really didn't have anything to offer at the time. But me being so blind and wanting to find a relationship, wanting to find somebody who would love me, you know, because at the time, you know, I didn't love myself. And that's the biggest problem is that, you know, I had been working on myself, but at the time I still hated myself. I was still down on myself. I hadn't done anything yet, you know, and when I think that sometimes when I don't have love for myself, I seek it from other people, which is just always turns out to be bad in the long run. And I was pretty much just, I mean, for lack of a better term, I was thirsty for, you know, anybody that would give me attention. If there was any red flags or anything weird, you know, I looked past that because I wanted the attention of another person. I wanted somebody to love me, you know, when I couldn't love myself. And as I said, looking back on it now, like I think it's almost selfish that, you know, that I felt that way and that I was entering relationships that way. And within about 9 months of getting out of jail, you know, I was still working out. I was still, you know, eating healthy and doing what I needed to do on a daily basis to try to improve myself. But I ended up meeting a girl, and, you know, at first she was kind of playing hard to get, you know, and I was chasing her and chasing her and chasing her. And there were a lot of red flags, you know, like she was pretty young. She was maybe 4 or 5 years younger than me. But, you know, at the time I was like, I think I was 24 years old and I think she was 19 or 20. And she was young. She didn't know what she wanted to do. And she was hanging out with a lot of like dudes that were like gangsters and stuff, you know. And she used to argue with me all the time. Where like, you know, she would hang out with me, but then she would go back and hang out with like these gangster guys. And then she would like send me pictures telling me like, oh, look at this chain that he gave me. Or look at all this money that he has. Like, I don't know if they were drug dealers or what. But like total fucking red flags, you know, like at that moment in time, you know, where she wasn't going to choose me and she was bragging to me about these other guy that she was hanging out with, you know, that should have been a red flag right there where I left, you know. But I was so obsessed with just getting a girlfriend, you know, I just wanted somebody to love me so much that I pretty much like kept working on it, and then I got her to date me. And we had been dating for not long, like maybe like a month or two, not very long. And I was working third shift at the place that I work right now, and she was, half the time she was a bartender, and then the other half she was like in some weird skincare pyramid scheme where, I don't know, she like sold like skincare to people and like tried to get people to like sell for her. I don't know if it's necessarily call it a pyramid scheme, but it's like everybody knows what I'm talking about, you know, like they do that shit with everything, like skin cares and whatever, like office supplies and just all types of shit. But I remember about a month and a half of us into us dating, you know, I had fallen like so in love with her, or so I thought, you know, like I'm blinded by like things, you know, like I don't think things through very well, you know, and I was so early in sobriety and so unconfident with myself and not whole that I was just not available to make good decisions. And she had to go to some like sales summit in Las Vegas, and she was going to be gone for the week. So we had said our goodbyes, and I was at work, and I talked to her every day. And she was down there like one of those weird like sales get-togethers where like it's like a bunch of rich people at the top of the company, and they're like, do you want to drive this car? Or like, do you want to wear a Rolex? It's like, you need to sell skincare. Sell. You're like one of those fucking cheesy things. Whatever. Besides the point. But I remember it was like 3 days into her Vegas trip, and I'm at work working third shift, and I get a phone call from her at like, I don't know, like 1 a.m. And I was like, hey, is everything okay? Like, what's wrong? Like, are you good? And she's like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, she's like, oh yeah, we were at this nightclub and we were partying with Brody. Like, I don't know if you guys know who Brody is from like the Hills or something. She's like, we're gonna go back to Brody's house and we're gonna have a party there. And you know, there's some guys that like me or whatever, or this or that, and like, I just want to let you know I'm breaking up with you right now. And it's funny now, right? Like, because now it's funny, but like at the time it was horrific. Like, I was level 10 fucking panic attack. Like, what the fuck is happening? You know, like my girlfriend is like halfway across the United States, and she just broke up with me because she wants to bang somebody at Brody's house. Like, fucking explain that. Like, I was sent over the top with anxiety and panic attack, and I couldn't figure out why this happened, why she would do this. And I tell you what, I'm lucky that I was in a habit of doing the things that I need to do. Because I can tell you for a fact right now that had I not been doing the things that I need to do on a daily basis, that I would have crumbled at that exact moment. You know, I was in a schedule of going to work, coming home. I had to do all my stuff, you know, like I had to do my drug test in the morning or go see my PO. And I always had like, I cooked meals at the same time, and I went to work out at the same time. And you know, I was starting to like getting into that groove of like building my confidence and like losing weight, building muscle, and the confidence that comes from like just doing the right things that you need to do every single day to improve yourself. That's what like builds your confidence, is what built my confidence and like made me stronger of a person. And I was fucking heartbroken. Like, I was fucked up. And I remember that I didn't work out that day. I wanted to call into work the next night, and I just didn't want to work. I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to eat healthy. I didn't want to do anything. And I did that for about like a day and a half, to where I finally just snapped out of it. I remember at this time I was working out. I was weightlifting. And when I first got out of jail, as I said in other videos, you know, I had really high anxiety, and all I did was run. I was doing like hill sprints, just going for jogs, just doing anything to bring my anxiety down. And I remember I was a day and a half into this breakup, and my anxiety was just so high, and I was depressed, and I didn't want to go to the gym, and I didn't want to go to work, and I remember I ended up leaving my house and I just went back to what I did, a year prior. I just started doing my hill sprints, and I went out and ran until, my anxiety came down and I calmed down, and I got back into my schedule after that, and I recovered from it so quickly. Because looking back on my life, the breakups that I had over my life, this is shit that would like cripple me for months. Like months. Like I would go off doing more drugs, drinking more, binge eating, just being a piece of shit for a very long time. Like this shit would affect me for a very long time. And I was able to get over this girl within, 2 to 3 days, where I just got back to my schedule. I was like, I just have to get back to doing what I need to do. I have to get to the gym. I have to work out. I have to go to work. I have to perform good at work because, I want to make more money. I want to get out of this place that I live. I want things. I was already in that mindset and I was strong enough to get through that. But had you put me in a different position, had that happen, within the first month of me being out of jail, where I hadn't even been lifting yet, where my anxiety was high, or like I was just, just getting sober, just getting over drugs. If I can give any advice for people that are dating in early sobriety, it's just realize that, if you don't love yourself and you're not whole, you can't love another person. Like if you're seeking love from another person because you don't love yourself, that's going to end bad every single time, and until you're confident with yourself and you're in a groove of things and you're loving the person that you're becoming, I mean, I personally wouldn't recommend anybody get in a relationship until you're at that point. I'm going to do a second part of this, because there are other things that had happened, not at this time, but years prior when I was getting sober, dating women that, had turned to a relapse. Luckily this last time, it didn't turn into a relapse because I was focusing on myself. But a lot of times I feel like people, like when they get sober, they're looking for something. They're looking for somebody to love them when they don't love themselves. And that's the wrong reason to get a girlfriend. It's a wrong reason to find a boyfriend. The right reason is that, when you find somebody that you love and you can give them just as much as they give you, that's an equal partnership. That's a good time to find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. This is obviously opinionated. Like I know there's situations that arise all the time, that like, some people it works out. I have friends that met in sobriety, that had relapsed together, that had got clean together, and then ended up getting married and have been married ever since. It can go any way. But the huge takeaway here is just, get a boyfriend or a girlfriend for the right reasons. Don't jump into a relationship because you're looking for somebody else to fix you. And when you're in early sobriety and you're blinded by your decisions, like you're just hyper focused on getting a girlfriend, finding somebody that is going to love you, that's the wrong reason to get into a relationship. And that could end badly because you could be in a bad situation that could send you into a spiral and could make you relapse. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight. I know I rambled on there for a long time, and it is a sensitive topic for me because I think it's really important. And, I can't fit everything into this one video, but I'm going to do a part 2 and some other relationships that I got into that I ended up relapsing from. Hope you guys are having a good week. Today is day 1 of quitting vaping. So I'm going to give you guys updates on that this week. If you guys are loving the videos, please like, please comment, please subscribe. I love all you. I'm out.